So yet another, I know I've repeated this same little theme quite a bit, but I saw yet another post about people arguing back and forth. The start of it was someone saying billionaires have nothing to do with people being poor. And that's beyond stupid. I mean, the response to it wasn't really right either, but that's beyond stupid. The whole point of having a lot of money is what the money can do. Like if you gave me, depending on where your heart is and where your mind is. Now you give me a whole bunch of money, first thing I'm going to do, I will secure myself. I'm going to admit that much. Can I get some stuff I need? I wouldn't be too gaudy. Ironically, some of the gaudiest I would do would be just sort of self-spoofing. It'd be hard not to sort of clown, you know what I mean? Get like a crown and a robe and a scepter. It'd be hard not to sort of troll, kind of clown, just like that, kind of self-spoofing thing. But I would give most of it away. I'd like to have a big house, nice big piece of property. But see, the issue is with these people, most millionaires, rich people, even people that you wouldn't necessarily call rich, their lifestyle that they want to have demands poor people. It's the lifeblood of what they want to do. Like if you're one of these evangelists, or I'm sure there's plenty more rich people, it's the same way. They want to have these multiple mansions and these multiple properties and all these different things. It's too much for them. They have to have a steady supply of poor people to work on all that stuff for them. Simple as that. You can't have multiple mansions with these big grounds that they're on and all landscaped and perfectly meticulously taken care of, and these expensive cars that you can't even work on yourself. It takes specialists and this and that. Like, what is it that Andrew Tate idiot likes so much? Bugattis. You can't really even work on those. So that type of lifestyle demands poor people. So to say that billionaires and millionaires have nothing to do with people being poor is insanity. It's insanity. It's so tone deaf and stupid. You have to think they must have hired that person to say that. Or this person can't see past their own nose. The whole point of it. And the way you would know that one of these billionaires is not that kind of person is they would be trying to get rid of poverty. You'll notice there's quite a few rich people. There's a lot of, so to speak, money, what do you want to call it, on the face of the earth. And yet there's so much poverty. And see, I wondered that when I was, even as a little kid. Like, why all these rich people, there's not too many of them trying to get rid of how much poverty there is. Isn't that weird? Why is that happening? Now, some will do some things, but you just think about how much they could do. I mean, I don't know how much, if you added up all the billionaires, and I'm not talking about what they're worth, I'm talking about what they have on hand that they could pull out of the bank, put in a suitcase or something like that. How much cash on hand do they have? Could they conjure up without making some sort of debt? Like it's not a loan. It's how much, like right now, how much do I have in my wallet and how much do I have in my bank accounts? That sort of thing. Same thing for a billionaire, millionaire, whatever else. How much do they have on hand or that's in the bank? Debt-free, duty-free, whatever else. I'm curious about that. How much is there? And then you tabulate all that up, and then you divide that by all the people on the planet. And I'm sure it would eliminate poverty. And it's crazy to me that none of them have even tried to do that, even to a small degree. Because you can make an excuse. One of the things I thought of when I first started exercising that thought that I just had was, well, wait a minute, that means you can't help everybody, right? If you're just one of them, even if you're a billionaire, you can't help everybody. Who do you help first? You're trying to help all these people, and then you run out of a way to help people, and there's people that need help. And they're going to be wondering, why didn't you help me instead of that person? Well, you have to have sort of a theme. Like me, for example, let's just say the lottery was legit. I don't really know that it is anymore. But let's just say I won this gigantic amount. I would have to, when I started to help people, I could make a theme that, okay, it's near my home, or it's people I know. You know, you start with your own circle and spread out. Just like, almost like a good disease, you know. You just spread out from that. And whoever's closest to you first, and you might do like a wild card, something, and pick somebody from somewhere else. And you expand it, and you make sure you're giving it to people who are going to build themselves up and also help other people. Something like that. There's options. There's options as far as that goes that I couldn't think of at the time when I first started thinking of it. But it's just crazy to think about that these people won't help other people. And you have these people running cover for them, saying that that's got nothing to do with it. It has to. Don't you understand that? It has to. What if none of the people doing all the work for, say, Kenneth Copeland, the evangelist, what if none of the people doing all his landscaping and taking care of his houses and whatever else he has people doing, what if none of them needed money? Think about it. He has to have people that need money. And the more they need it, the less he can pay them. That's the way that works. So in a manner of speaking, it would also behoove a wealthy person to get involved in politics and make sure that poor people always are poor. They always need money. And that, you know, that brings you up to the inflation thing, which I pointed out before. Whatever money a poor person has left over after all their bills, all their expenses, when inflation goes up, it essentially devalues that money that they have left. Prices go up, it devalues, it gives them less money, or in a manner of speaking, it devalues the money that they have. And people would argue that, well, it devalues the rich person's money too. No, it's because they have so much extra money, and these people need it so bad. Even though it's technically the same currency, their money devaluing increases the value of this person's money, the wealthy person, because now this person needs it more. In a manner of speaking, the poorer somebody is, the less you can pay them. The more they need it, the less they'll take. So it benefits a wealthy person that the system makes poor people. One way you can kind of be wealthy is to be a landlord. Well, if everybody can buy a house, you can't rent houses. So in a manner of speaking, you'll notice certain areas you can't build certain houses, certain types of housing. You know, single wide's very hard to get a loan on, even though it's a cheaper mode of housing. If you take like a brand new single wide, you put it on a half acre of land, something like that, where if you can manage to do it, find a piece of land that will allow it. Once you have that done, you can't sell it for cheap. I mean, to turn a profit on it, you're probably bumping up against $200,000. Sounds crazy, but it's the truth. And even then, you're not going to make a lot of profit. And I've seen them go for that, by the way, in hellhole areas. So even double wides, you know, and then that makes it even more expensive. You're on up into between $200,000 and $300,000. I mean, you're bumping up into housing territory there. So, and then you got areas that won't allow that. Again, that benefits the wealthy person. And it's funny too, you cannot get a loan on certain houses, but you can rent them. You know, a house won't pass an inspection, so then a wealthy person buys it, and then a poor person has to turn around and rent that house that wouldn't pass that inspection from that rich person and pay more than what they would be paying per month on the mortgage. The rent will cost them more. And a lot of people make an excuse there, well, they got to turn the profit on the rent. If they're paying the house payment, they have to charge enough over the rent to make a profit. Well, a lot of times they won't even be paying the mortgage. They bought it outright. So that's done. So they don't even have to do that. And a lot of these realtor sites will actually tell them what the expected rent is. So, but another thing that sort of the right-leaning people screw up on is they talk about, at least the libertarians, they're against this printing money thing. Okay. Well, there's a problem with that. You know, if you got, I don't know how much money there would be in existence, but if there's this much, that's $1 trillion, if I'm correct. Okay. Well, what if one person gets all this? If that's all the money there is, you can't print more money. There's a finite amount of wealth. What happens if one person or one group gets this? What do you do then? So there's got to be something beyond that. That's not going to work. It's not going to work for everybody. It only works for that person. So to me, the answer to a lot of this, and people aren't going to like it, but redistribution, not necessarily of wealth, as far as currency goes. You get rid of most of the fees just being alive. There's too many, you know, they've sort of taken hold of the living expenses term and used it for something else. What it's being used for, I wouldn't call it that. I wouldn't call those things that. Because the real living expenses, just as you get grown, just to function in life, that is living expenses. Because they don't want people focusing on that. All these fees that you have to pay constantly. And I'm not even talking about needing to go to the doctor or dentist. I'm not even talking about that. I'm not talking about the food that varies in prices. I'm not talking about the fuel, you know, which varies in amounts that you'll need and prices and this and that. I'm talking about you just existing. It's just standing on ground. There's going to be people show up and want money from you. You own your own home, they're going to come for land expenses, property taxes. And that's insanity to a certain degree. I'm not saying it should never happen. At this point in my life, I might change my mind on that. But certainly in a lot of cases, it shouldn't happen. If you're not making any money, you're living on your own, you're doing all right, why are you paying property taxes? Why are they coming? It's like they're forcing you. You should have the ability on this planet, in this country, wherever, to not participate. It's like they're forcing you to participate. What if you decided, all right, I've got my land, I've got my house, everything's paid off, I'm manufacturing my own electricity. And I don't know how possible this is, but this is feasible at least. I'm manufacturing my own electricity, I'm acquiring my own food, I've got my own water. Why are you having all these expenses? They're forcing you to have money. You don't even need money in that case, arguably. It's feasible for there to be a person surviving while having no money. But the reason it's not is because people will come and take their home for land taxes. It's for if they try to drive somewhere, you know. Let's just say they made an electric car. So they don't even need gas anymore. They made an electric car. And they're making their own electricity through solar or whatever else. So they can actually charge up that car. Well, then they're going to make them pay taxes. They'll make them have auto insurance for life, for no reason, even with a clean driving record. They're going to, in some places, make them have some sort of inspection. That car won't even go in these places that have vehicle safety inspections. It could be completely safe. But some little stipulation will keep that from happening. I guarantee you, you make your own electric car, you ain't driving it in either one of Virginia's. I guarantee that. So, there's that in some areas. They make you put tags on it. Why is that happening? And you got to have your driver's license. You got to keep doing that every now and then. Why is that happening? Why do you keep... And the funny thing is they'll argue, well, it pays for this, it pays for that. So wait a minute. You're telling me that unless we bilk everyone, including poor people, including law-abiding people, we keep taking money out of their pockets, sometimes that they don't even have, that such and such an industry or structure or infrastructure will break down. Well, something is wrong with how you're managing it. Seriously. Maybe the system has got something wrong with it. You're telling me if people were able to just buy tags for their car one time, at least for more than a year, and just have a driver's license and that's it unless something happened, and not have to have auto insurance and they're a safe driver, they don't get any wrecks, it's their fault? You're telling me that some sort of infrastructure would shut down? That's weird. And how is that not, the anti-socialist people, why aren't they speaking up about that? Because isn't that what that is? If you took all those things away, like, all right, don't worry, all those things are free, but we're going to pay you, we're going to take a tax out of your income, or you're going to have to pay a fee periodically, and that's going to pay for roads and bridges and this and that, they'd be mad. Oh no, socialism. They're already doing it. You're just not paying any attention. And they're not doing a very good job of it too. I don't know if you noticed. I just went to check the mailbox earlier today, and there's a little line of green in the middle of the road. Not to mention the gigantic tall weeds on either side of them. They either do that, they leave it the way it is, they, in a case of a year or two ago, they cut into my yard. I had like a sort of a privacy thing. It's not exactly pretty, but since I don't have the money for landscaping and everything, made sort of a blind from the road. And it's technically weeds and trees and bushes and everything else, but it had nothing to do with the road. And they reached off in there and cut it down. Now it's grown back for now. Who knows if they're going to forget and do it again. It's because they don't like what it looks like. It's not interfering with driving. So it's either too much or not enough. So you got the Republican-Democrat thing going again. But the main point of this, going back to the original idea, is it's not billionaires' fault that you're poor. And the response is always, we need to tax billionaires more. It's kind of like the minimum wage thing. Yes and no. I guess it would help, but you're kind of just chasing your tail. There's got to be some other answer, and it makes me think that a lot of the people, there's probably a lot of them that mean well, and they're just repeating talking points. But sort of the tax the billionaires people, whether they know it or not, they're kind of running cover for the billionaires because it's not going to help. It's like Dr. Evil there, Jeff Bezos. Wonder why people below a certain amount are being taxed. He's kind of saying that because he's scared, and that's what a lot of left-leaning people are saying. He's saying that now because he's scared. Some, maybe, you can make that argument. I would say it has to do more to do with the fact that he knows it doesn't mean anything. It's not going to help. I mean, I know with the amount that I'm making now, in the course of a year, I haven't worked here for a year yet, where I'm working now. In the course of a year, what I'm roughly being paid, without benefits and 401k, all that different stuff, because I think it's just now started up. I was losing about $2.40 an hour, roughly. That's just under $5,000 a year. Now the problem is, it's not all income taxes. It's not all, federal income taxes. It's Tennessee, so there's no state income tax. It's not all federal income taxes. It's Social Security. It's Medicaid or whatever else that is. I get those things confused, but whatever that other fee is. So I'm guessing it would only roughly give me half of that back. Yes, that would help. But if you look at the other issues, I mean, with inflation going up, you could be out that much a year anyway. It's what he's talking about is hot air. Now, granted, the income he was talking about was more than that. It was 2.5 times what I'm making now, roughly. Definitely more than 2 times. It's just not going to help that much. He's getting people hyped up about something that isn't going to mean anything in the long run. it does make sense. Why are they being taxed? It does make sense. But, you know, it makes more sense to get rid of all these other fees for life. For life. You think about how much money it would save to not have to pay for tags on your vehicle, not to pay for auto insurance on your vehicle for certain people. If you're a reliable driver, you look at the driving record, it's a good driving record, no mandatory auto insurance. You can have it if you want it. So you got no tags. You got no auto insurance. You get no property taxes for your home. You might could even argue for certain incomes, at least, no taxes on your food, if you can prove that. Maybe that comes with a card or something like that. They send you a card. I make this amount, and it knocks off all the sales tax also. At least for a lot of stuff. It's a start. You think about how much money that would save in a year, and you notice Mr. Amazon isn't pitching that. Of course not. So you got to keep in mind, and that's a person right there. I think Jimmy Dore show said that some of the people there are making $30,000 a year. That's $15 an hour. I don't know if that's gross or net. Either way, it's not great, especially not now. So, and the way they treat them. So, 15, and that's not going to help that much. Knocking off taxes for them, again, $2,500 a year. So you go from $30,000 to $32,500. Oh, I'm saved. You're still, these loan companies aren't going to give you a home loan at all. Not at all. Right now, it looks like, and there might be something I don't know because I'm not actively trying to get a home loan right now. I have one. But it looks like you'd have to be into the 20s. It looks like it. And then you got a down payment that you're really supposed to, you really need. And you're not going to have that, chances are. So that's going to make your payment go through the roof. Areas that are going to have all these restrictions and this and that. So, in short, yes, for sure, billionaires are part of the reason that people are poor, because they have to be. Their money is not going to mean anything unless there's poor people. Therefore, they have to have their fingers in this system to make sure there's poor people. It's as simple as that. It's just simple logic, people. This is not right or left wing. This is just simple logic. You have billions of dollars. Oh, I want to have this gigantic, I want to have a home here and a home there and a home here. Okay, who's going to take care of it? Because you're making yourself a lot more work. Are you really going to do that? Now, with me, I would be working more. But when it comes to the point of something I can't take care of myself and I would need to somehow hope somebody's poor enough to have to work for me, and then you have to do in your mind, oh, well, how much can I pay them to where they're not going to have enough money to save up and not be back tomorrow or next year, something like that. Keep in mind, that's a strategy also. They figure out, they look at all the other places. You'll notice certain areas come close to the same amount of pay, just like gas stations in certain areas, about the same cost. It's like it's coordinated. They have to make sure you get paid just enough to work there and maybe not die until you start to get a little bit older and slower and useless anyway. But not enough to really put any money back. That way you keep working. They're not going to pay you enough to quit. That's the whole point of it. And they're not going to pay you enough to live long, because then you'll retire. You're going to keep making more pay. If they keep having new people, they keep having people paid less. It keeps these employment agencies going too. These temp agencies, which are parasitic. All of them. All of them. I used to have one. There's one I worked for. I don't know what was going on there. I was making roughly $10 an hour while I was a temp. And I got hired on the company. I was making nearly twice that. They were taking nearly 50% of my income. For what? So again, That's another example. The existence of billionaires means, and millionaires, these wealthy companies, I mean, I always name the fast food places. The whole point of them, there must be poor people. Therefore, those places are responsible for poverty because they have to be. They can't exist without it. Burger King, McDonald's, places like that, they can't exist without poverty. Also, I mean, even the customers. How many wealthy people are eating there? There's probably a few. I know there's one in particular. But they need poor people. So you think they're not going to sort of manufacture a system and enforce a system that creates poor people? Because without them, they can't exist. These fast food places cannot exist without poverty. They can't. Nobody wants to work there. They're working there because they're poor. And if they pay people too much, they won't be poor. They'll do something else. So in answer to the question, yes, billionaires are the reason why people are poor. Wealthy people, the super wealthy, are the reason why people are poor. For 100% fact, undeniable, because they require them for their life. Simple as that. All the extra things that they want, they have to have poor people. They need servants. They need butlers and maids and people taking care of their kids and people taking care of all their cars and all their properties. They need poor people. At the very least, they're responsible for them being poor. Find out how much those people are being paid. I bet it's less than you think. Because if they ain't poor, they're not going to work for them. Now, should you tax the billionaires and millionaires and all that to fund all this other stuff? Again, I think it would help, but you're chasing your tail. There's got to be some other system. Part of what it is, and this is why I think some of these people are running cover for these wealthy people, pretending to be progressive and this and that, is because they don't want you to see the real answer. The real answer is that we all on this planet, and again, this isn't communist, this isn't left-wing, anything like that. It's logic. It's simple logic that we all on this planet. If you're born here, you own it. Simple logic. If you believe in God or if you don't believe in God, both ways agree that if you're born here, you own this planet. But certainly if you believe in God. This planet was made for all of us, and we all have a claim on it. No more than our own share. So there's that to think about. Think about what that wouldn't be, what kind of expense that would take away. And by the way, for people calling that communist and this and that, that's how this country started. The Native Americans didn't really consider themselves, from what I can tell, most of them, from what I know, which is not a whole lot, they just lived and went wherever they want. They hunted, they planted crops, they did whatever. And that's why I kind of confused them when the colonists show up, wanted to own this and own that, and they could no longer be here and there. It was strange. And who'd they buy that land from? They didn't. They just took it. And a lot of times the Native Americans didn't really mind. It's not really taking it from anyone. They're living here and this person's living here, and that's fine. And even in the early days of this country, you wanted to go live somewhere that wasn't somebody's land, go to it. You had to build everything yourself, which is fine. But that's how this country started, and all of a sudden, that's not happening anymore. And I like how a lot of people want to say, make America great again, and this and that, and how things used to be, and what the forefathers, this and that. And it's like you're not pitching any of the good things that was happening back then. You want a spot of land, you want to live somewhere, you just went and did it. You can't do that anymore. You go stand out in the field and somebody arrests you for it. Just stand there. Now, who do you think is behind that system? So this went way too long, but the answer is yes. And the way the billionaires, it is billionaires' fault that poor people are poor. And taxing them is sort of an answer, but it's not enough. And I think people that are pitching that too hard are sort of, whether they mean to or not, running cover and blinding people from the real answer, which is the real answer is that people have what I would call life shares. You're born, you have a claim to everything. And I think that would even affect fuel cost, because the fuel comes from a planet which belongs to all of us. It's one step away from them charging you for air, and they're already charging you for water. Some places you can't even collect rainwater. So if it comes from this planet, or it is this planet, it belongs to all of us. So we're being charged for something that is already ours. Simple as that. It's already ours. And if you think that's crazy, imagine getting in a time machine, going back and pitching your ideas that you have now to the colonists. They'd probably want to give you some of the witch trials treatment. So is it billionaires' fault that people are poor? Yes. Yes. Yes, it is. It's why they're rich. It's why their wealth has any weight. Because if there's not poor people, all they have is extra paper. That's it. Need to wake up, people.